This is our K&A stop for our Caravan this year. And you guys have probably already heard the big points in the news, but we'll go through the presentation with you guys today. We'll have time for a few questions, but then we've got to go to KIM pretty quickly thereafter, and then we'll go to KIM2 tomorrow. So we'll take a couple of questions after this, but mainly just if you would feed them through to your managers and then HR, and we'll try and get back to you. We're just developing an FAQ for all the questions, and we'll feed that back out once we get good answers for all the questions that folks may have. Okay, so we'll start with Amano-san, who has a few words for us.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
It has been almost 1 year since I came to work for KNA. Today, we are sharing with you about our business environment, future countermeasures, and strategies. As you all know, the automotive market in North America is slowing down. And even our main customer, Honda, is not able to create a strategy for future expansion with confidence. For Keihin's business in North America, our products prices continue to drop due to tough competition. We have also lost maker layout for certain business. We are in a very tough situation. Looking at the KNA's sales amount, it has been going down for the past several years. And we are expecting further reductions in sales. Under this situation, we have all been working on activities to secure our profit. All of you have been contributing to the company through your daily work and improvement activity. I thank you for what you do. We are forecasting that the next few years will be especially tough. During this time, we need to make sure we maintain and grow our business we have in North America by taking quick action. Our merger with Hitachi, Showa, and Nissin is taking place in the fall. Even though this merger brings hope of expanding our products into future products used for things such as electrification and autonomous driving. It does not mean immediately start having more business. What we need to do now is prepare for future growth by creating a strong constitution that can bear the upcoming reduction in sales as we make improvements to QCD. The new company will have many plants in North America from the merger. I won't be told they want new product to be made at KIM or KCSD, because our plants have #1 competitiveness. I believe with our spirit and ability, this will happen. We will have a few measures to roll out for this to happen. There will be more explanation for these activities, and I'd like to ask for your understanding and cooperation to create a bright future for us. Let's all aim to be the best plant of the new company. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of drill down into some of the points that Mr. Romano made and try to explain some of the current situation and then what we're going to do kind of moving forward into what we call next midterm, 14th midterms coming up from April of this year. So first of all, talking about the environment itself, the U.S. economy is kind of in a confusing state, if you will. And to explain that, if you just kind of read the news, you see all the businesses expanding around us. Even just recently this week, I think Amazon is expanding in Greenfield. So there's quite a bit of that going on. A record stock market, record low unemployment. However, on the automotive side, it's actually quite the opposite of that currently. And again, you can see these things in the news, but the tougher climate and regulations that we have to deal with, both from a mission standpoint and material content standpoint. Those are becoming much more tough on us. Trade wars, we hear a lot about tariffs and also other taxes and things that are applied, again, making the business very difficult. Just technology rapidly changing, just in general, let alone, you've got the electrification and hybrid technologies, ride sharing. There's many different things that are happening in our market currently that we're also having to deal with. And then global competition itself, again, non-traditional competitors, the Googles of the world, Amazons of the world, they're getting into our segment of work. And so we'll have to compete with them as time moves forward even more. So we're kind of caught in this generational change at the moment. And so that's something all automotive companies are going through and trying to feel their way through. We talked about the merger a few months ago, and Manasan touched on that earlier. A lot of companies are going through that type of activity to build their power to be able to develop this new technology, both from a manpower and a cost standpoint. So that's, again, something we have to consider. Talking about sales, it shows they're continuing to decline 4% globally over the last year, and it's been declining the last several years. And actually, some experts say that we probably have already reached the peak volume globally of all time. That's primarily because of ride sharing and autonomous vehicles and those types of things. And the buying power of this new generation is different than most of us. So, that we'll have to deal with that again, kind of a shrinking market, if you will. In North America, sales, again, we can maybe say at best it's flat, but it's also declining a little bit. It was over 18 million for a few years and gradually dropping down. Light truck makes up 72% of the market, and that's pretty phenomenal. Just look back 5 or 10 years ago, it was the exact opposite of that. And so, that doesn't necessarily line up exactly well with Honda in our products. However, hopefully with the new business in the future, that'll be an opportunity for us. Honda themselves, good news, bad news, the market share is flat for them. And so you can look at that either way, but it's been right around 10% for a number of years. And so, that's another situation. And then for us here, at FY15, about 5 years ago, we peaked our sales here in the U.S., about $1 billion in sales. And unfortunately, for the last 5 years, we've been on a decline. It's down about 30% from where we once were. And as I mentioned a minute ago, we're getting ready to go into the 14th midterm from April. And even the first couple of years in the next midterm are going to be tough on us. Not as drastic necessarily, but sales do continue to decline a little bit. However, we have good news, Matt will talk about later, regarding new products and new potential customer and that type of thing. So it's not all doom and gloom. There is a lot of good activity on the horizon. But in the meantime, we do need to take critical actions now to improve competitiveness, make sure we are aligned for the future, and do the best we can. And as mentioned a minute ago, we don't know what's going to happen with the merger. We just need to prepare ourselves as best we can for that. So some slides here just on the current situation. This is just a sales trend here. I mentioned already it's been dropping down. That's the bars. And you can see the dotted red box. That's the area we're calling bottom level. It kind of bottoms out over these next 2 years, FY20 and 21. And that primarily is due to some maker layout loss, like the Civic HVAC that'll happen later this year, but also many of the V6 products will be ramping down and building out as well. And then in blue, you can see there it starts to ramp back up from FY22. And that's new products we already have maker layout on, such as PCU, IMGU, KN15, and some of those kind of products. So that's a pretty good increase coming our way. So we need to prepare for that. Looking at the current constitution at the plants, these are the 4 U.S. plants, 2018 compared to 19. So we've been able to show good improvement on pretty much all the measurables. However, well, before I move on, we are able to control fixed costs. That's been a real focus over the last few years, and that's really a credit to everybody in this room and at the facilities helping us with that to align towards that lower sales. So we've been able to keep pace with that. However, quality, even though we've had drastic improvement, we still aren't at zero, so we need to work on that and continue to work on our scrap and labor efficiency, and primarily being able to achieve our initial product cost. So that'll be a focus of ours for the next few years. The framework, you've seen this in the past. I won't go through the details. The triangles here really just indicate that we need to work on advanced activities so that we can secure new business with potentially new customers. And then on the bottom, it talks about that section's for the associates. And with all these changes we're talking about in this declining business, how do we keep them around? How do we keep people motivated and retained? Because we need them, as you see, in the next few years. We're going to be ramping up with new technologies. So it's going to be important to keep the associate morale. Just a couple slides, one on quality here. First of all, a couple good things here I want to point out. You can see the red bars towards the bottom left. Those are A-rank escapes to the customer. It's been 5 years since we've had an A-rank escape, knock on wood, not so loud, but we've done a good job being able to mitigate those issues. So thanks to everybody's efforts there. And then as you can see on the far right-hand side, over the last 3 years, we've been able to reduce escapes by over 90%. Again, we're not at zero. We need to be better. We have hopefully new business coming, and we want to start off on the right foot with our new customers as well. In the area of safety, really the same kind of trend. You can see this graph. This is what they call recordable incident ratio. And you can see we were at about 2.5 6 years ago, and that's dropped down now to about 0.5. That's about almost an 80% improvement in injury rate at all of our facilities. And that's a credit to all the associates' hard work, reporting near misses and the good mindset of everybody trying to countermeasure those things. So again, we want to keep this trend going. And just as reference, you can see the industry average there is about, it's about 80% lower for us than the average. So again, good job there. So this is just a summary of the current situation. Probably you're looking at the bottom of the page because that's what most people are interested in hearing. But the summary here, the main thing is we do have these 2 years for the bottom level that we need to work through. Of course, we want to get new business, so the sales groups and technical groups are working really hard on that. But in the meantime, we need to take some actions. So, and I'll touch on these 3 points here in a minute in a little more detail. But unfortunately, we had the news earlier this week with KMM that we have announced closure of KMM. Now that'll be about a year from now, and it'll be in February of 2021. And just for your understanding, we actually met with them already on Monday. And since then, we've met with every single individual on their severance package, which is a pay-to-stay program for them. And the meetings went extremely well under the circumstances. So, they understand the condition, and we'll continue to work together and make it as smooth transition as we possibly can. The other point, and that probably pertains a lot to you guys, is the headquarters function is going to be restructured. And so I'll talk more about this in a minute, but it's a little bit mixed up between the manufacturing side and what we would call more true headquarters work. So I'll explain more on that in a minute. And then as a result of all these changes and a little more decline ahead of us, we still need to work on fixed cost reduction and our overhead. So we are announcing an early retirement program for those that are eligible. And Dave will explain more about that here in just a few minutes. So regarding, regarding KMM, the gray bars represent their sales, and the blue line is profit. We had a really early start this morning, so, but you can see the sales decline there. They've done a really good job being able to keep in the black. Basically, it's break even, but that was our challenge to them. Make this decision as hard as you can make it on us, and hopefully in the meantime we can get some new business. Unfortunately, even though there was a lot of work put into it, we weren't able to quite get there yet. But we are going to get new business. It's just a matter of time, and it's a long cycle, so we'll continue to work on that. Unfortunately, from the dash line over, you can see their future starting this year. They just cannot recover enough due to sales drop, and they go in the red or negative profit and just cannot be recovered. The big change point here, you can see the big drop down in 21. Really, it's at the end of this year. That's that civic HVAC loss that we got. And the other thing, for most of our plants, the real need is to be close to the customer so we can service them appropriately. And in this case, it's HCM. And after the civic build out, there really is no more business with HCM from the KMM plant itself. So based on all those things, the decision had to be made then to close them. This is just a map showing there are some remaining products there. It's not a lot, but some. So this year we'll be working on transition plans for the fuel pipe assembly to return back to KIM1. NP4 and AP4 in Manny will return to or go to KIM2. And the HVAC that's remaining for overseas products will transfer to TUS. And then the other thing I want to point out here, I talked about it earlier, that the blue boxes are new business. So you can see the remaining facilities have new business coming their way, although it's a couple years away. So we need to keep that in mind. So everybody will be working hard on this transition over the next year and supporting KMM. And this is simply the schedule. Just to give you a quick review of that, the fuel pipeline, the number 1 bullet there, will transfer later this summer. That's a 1 associate line, so there'll be no impact to headcount at that point. And the boxed area over there from December is where the major impact occurs, and that's when the civic HVAC builds out, and the NP4 will be transferred, as we mentioned earlier. You can see there's a big build ahead there, so we'll be needing support from K&A to help with that as well. And then finally in December, some of the smaller lot production stuff will build out. So that'll be the kind of rough schedule. And again, there was a paid state program for them, and Dave may touch on that here just a minute. So the KNA headquarters, I'll give you a little background here. The upper left-hand side is the way we used to operate prior to KNA being developed. Very independent, operated companies. There was really no Americas group, so to speak. And they were pretty much every entity was controlled by Japan separately. And so we created KNA to get synergy effect, centralized functions, and those kinds of things. So you can see we slimmed down the plants, and inside the box, you can see kind of the yellow and the blue. So we have some manufacturing operations in there as well as headquarters operations. And we added KMX and TUS. And now we have a bigger Americas group that we need to service as well. On the lower left-hand side is what the proposal is, which actually was approved this week from Japan. So effective from April, we will realign the headquarters. You see the KNA will remain an Inc. company, but it'll be much smaller than what we're used to. And the new company will be called KUS. So basically we're taking KIM and KCST and merging them together as one manufacturing company, and they will be an LLC. We are going to keep the sites, Greenfield, Muncie, and Tarboro, just for identification, but it will operate as one manufacturing company. KMM, in the meantime, we will keep them as an LLC separate since they're going to be closing. It's just simpler to do that way, and so we'll continue with that. So the purpose here for the headquarters is to be responsible for all Americas and work on the development strategy to expand business. And for the KUS function, primarily it's to control manufacturing operations and improve competitiveness. So that'll be the main functions. This is simply just trying to show the breakdown of the work. We won't get into the detail. We're working on the duty authority and all the organization charts with this. It's going to take some time yet, primarily because of retirement. We're not really sure how it's going to go yet, but we are working on this, and we'll share this with you as soon as we have more information about the breakdown. We know generally how it's going to break down, but the details will have to come later. The one thing that it says here at the bottom, we are, to help reduce our expenses as well, we are going to close the Anderson headquarters, and we're going to move the remaining people to the Greenfield location. And on the next slide, it's a simple schedule, but we are already underway with site preparation. So we're trying to make the area as nice as we can so that something more of what we're used to in this environment. However, we got to kind of consider we'll be, at that location and how we administer that. But that site preparation is going to take maybe 4 to 6 weeks. We don't know the exact date, but it'll probably be somewhere, I say, early mid-May to the end of June, somewhere in that time frame. And again, we'll let you know the details on that later. We have looked at the desk space, parking, meeting rooms, and it is going to be tight, but we can facilitate everybody there and hopefully gain some energies by being at the shop floor, at least for the operations side people. So again, that'll take effect from April, even though we won't physically move until a little later on. So now I'll turn over to Dave, talk about the early retirement.
Okay, so as we begin to talk about early retirement, I just want to start high. So when companies make a lot of money and things are great, it's easy to treat people well. When times are tough, that's when you see the real heart of the organization that you work for. So what we're doing here today with the early retirement and how we're dealing with the folks at KMM is we're trying to make the best decisions that we can to deal with the downturn that we have in front of us. So for KMM, we're giving those folks more than a year's notice, and we're giving them a good severance plan. So we're treating them the best that we can. We gave them a year's notice, not because it's required by law. We're only required to give a 60-day notice. We're giving them that notice so they know what's going on. Nobody goes out and buys a house. Nobody goes out and buys a car. We're giving them good benefits to try and find a new job. And we're hopeful that all these folks are going to land on their feet. We're doing our best to get that result for them. So now, why are we doing the early retirement plan? So we could have decided, hey, we need to lose X number of people. Let's just go out and hit. Let's just go out and take them out. We're not doing that. We're asking folks who are near retirement to consider this package. This can be a good deal for everybody involved. If you're close to retirement, if you've been thinking about this, if this is a good deal for you, please consider it strongly. Please think about it. If people who are near retirement will take this package and leave, then we won't have to do anything else. It can be a good deal for those folks. It can be a good deal for the folks who stay. So this is the best way for us to approach the reduction that we need to make to get ready for the growth that's in front of us. We have a couple of years where it's down, and then we need to strongly recover. So we're offering this to hourly associates at KIM 1 only. We're not offering it to hourly associates at other locations because we don't need to lose production people at other locations. We're offering it to all salaried people because we do need to lose some SDID, and we think we can move things around. If person A takes it, maybe person B can pick up a piece of that job. So you're eligible if you're at least 50 years of age by the end of the year, and you have a total of 65, a number that adds up to 65 when you add your age plus your seniority by the end of the year. So this hits a lot of people. Now, I don't expect a 50-year-old to go and retire, but if you're looking for something else, and this does not sound like a place that you'd like to be for the next couple of years, and you're 50 years old, again, it's a great deal for you. We'll meet with each and every person that's eligible for this program in a small group, 4 or 5 associates at a time. We'll describe the package, and we'll leave it with you. You have until March 9th to decide. The company will pick the exit date. So the exit date can be up to a year away. We'll discuss if you have a specific need, if you want to go, July 31st, we'll talk about that, and we'll try and take your needs into consideration. But really, it's going to be about the business needs of the corporation. So there's going to be a lot of movement during this period, and we don't know what that's going to look like. I know everybody's wondering, where do I sit? Who do I report to? What's the organization going to look like? But until we know what the early retirement results look like, we just really can't know that because there are a lot of managers, a lot of senior people who are eligible for retirement. We don't know who's going to manage those groups if those people take the early retirement. So it's going to take a little while to work this out. So you have until March 9th to decide. KPN decides how many associates we can afford to retire. Retirement date is set by the company. Associates may continue medical benefits for up to 3 years, minimum of 2, up to 3, depending on age. You can take your benefits separately, so you can purchase clinic access separate from core medical, so you can just choose the clinic benefit. And today we got the rates back for the clinic. For an individual, for clinic access only, it's $79 a month. And then for associate plus one, it's $125 a month. And so if you had clinic access, you'd have access to the medications that we have on our formulary for free. You have free doctor's visits, and then you'd only need to pick up like a high deductible plan to go along with that if you're looking at retirement. So the payment is made in a lump sum. We're going to meet with each and every associate across all of North America who is eligible, and I'll have a package for each of them, and you can ask me more detailed questions at that point. Krista and I will be doing that. So here are a couple of examples of people with long-term service. So this is a person with a salary of $45,000 a year, 30 years of service. Their severance package is worth 118% of a year's salary. Another person with 20 years service, and their package is worth 84% of a year's salary. Again, each person who's eligible for this has a package already pre-printed, and we will meet with them. And all we're going to ask is that you consider what's best for you and your family. And if this is a good deal for you, please take it. And so I'm going to pass it over to Matt, who we've been calling the closer, because he's got all the good news. So York and I have the bad news, and Matt has the good stuff.
Okay. Good afternoon. So obviously, to recap, we talked about the KMM situation, talked about the restructuring of KNA, we talked about the early retirement. And we know that news can be unsettling. Change can always be unsettling. But the first piece of good news that I want to share is when we come through this, on the other side of this, we'll be a much stronger company. We'll have our infrastructure scaled appropriate to the business, and we'll be able to compete and win against our competition. So as we prepare for our future, as they've said before, we do need to make these adjustments. And I want to share some of the good things that are going on for the future. First, we have to set our plan for 14 midterm. I think everybody knows midterms are in buckets of 3. So 13 midterm is 2017, 18, 19. 14 midterm is 20, 21, and 22. So before we set our plan for 14 midterm, we have to reflect on the internal and external factors that hit us in 13 midterm that are applicable for 14 midterm. These guys have already talked a lot about it, but the technology shift toward EV, currently there's only 1% of the US market that so the market sales for EV vehicles. By 2030, 30% of vehicles sold in the US will be some sort of electrified powertrain. Mild hybrid, full hybrid, plug-in hybrid, battery electric vehicles, 30% of the market will shift toward electrification. Also, we all know probably we're in a trade war. We have steel and aluminum tariffs as well as China tariffs. This year alone, it cost us about $7 million. We've tried to offset a lot of that, but this is still a factor for next key, and hopefully it'll end soon thereafter, but we do have to consider it going forward. Also, our customer has shifted volumes and new model timing. We have to adapt to that. As York-san said, that we still have to focus on continuous improvement for quality, cost, and delivery. We've made some improvements there, but we have to maintain that focus. Also, for the future technologies, we have the opportunity to reskill ourselves. That includes from the manufacturing side and us here in the office to learn those new technologies. And also, we talked about redefining roles in the Americas. So we know near term that volumes, revenue, and profits are going to decline. This is not news. We've been talking about this for a couple of years. But we also know, and this is what I want to talk about today, we also know that our new products will carry us forward and lead us toward recovery in the 14th midterm. So from here, we know going into the 14th midterm, we need to urgently establish a highly effective operation. So what's that look like? A lot of words here. We set our policy, our vision, and then the 3 arrows, 1, 2, 3 arrows. But we can summarize this by saying we want to build the most competitive environment, both at a corporate side and a factory side. We want to significantly expand sales in the region. We want to maximize efficiency in all areas: sales, engineering, development, purchasing, quality, production, and management. And we want to create an environment where we can reskill and re-educate ourselves. This is a carry forward from 13 midterm, where we want to work for a good company that we can be proud of, an environment where we can feel motivated. And we want to continue our engagement through two-way engagement, through more frequent and transparent communications. So these are the important factors going into the 14th midterm. So in 2018, 2019, we set out to understand more about the non-Honda customers, and we called it Voice of the Customer. And the target was pretty easy. In 2015, we were $1 billion in sales in the US. So the target, mathematically, it's very easy, is to close that gap of 30% decline, $300 million. And so we've established a presence in Detroit area. We did this purposely to get the more frequent communications with the Detroit 3, General Motors, Ford, and Fiat Chrysler. And also Toyota has an office in Detroit. So we've had a lot of activity in Detroit to have more frequent communications, both with sales and the technical side. Ed was just in Detroit this week talking with all 3 of those, had meetings in Detroit just this week. The idea here is that we get a better understanding of their technical and commercial needs, and they get a better understanding of who we are, who Caravan is, what our capabilities are, what kind of products we offer, so that we can then align those goals, align those offerings, and set realistic targets. So now I want to talk about some business that's coming to our factories. We've all heard about PCU. We talk a lot about PCU and IMGU and ICM and VZ1, and I want to show you exactly what those are. We don't always get to see those here. So the PCU starts in 2023. This 3D model is a Gen 4 PCU. We will assemble that at KIM. This is an older model, previous generation. You can see the size compared to the ECU and the injectors. This is about 30 pounds of high voltage electric products. Some key selling features for Caravan. We're the world's highest energy density unit on the market. We have the highest voltage control. This is an onboard VCU, voltage control unit that controls motor voltage up to 700 volts. And we have the world's first direct transmission mount device. The headline here is really that it's a $27 million investment into KIM. And so in changing times, this shows us that Caravan is still investing in US factories. So this provides us hopefully with a sense of stability as Caravan is committed to US sales and growth. Also at KIM, they will make the upper and lower die-cast cases, so they'll utilize some some stranded equipment capacity in space. And on the injector side, we're going from the KN12, the new generation KN15. The KN12 operates in a 20 megapascal environment. This injector has been designed in the same package, it's almost exactly the same size, actually with 2 fewer parts to a 35 megapascal pressure environment. This allows the OEMs to meet their fuel requirements and their emissions regulations. So this keeps us relevant in internal combustion engine technology. This is a big deal. 2.5 million pieces a year, $29 million investment. So again, big investments at KIM, KUS Greenfield now. KUS Tarboro, their future generation FIECU, it's a 900,000 units per year. It's a $16 million investment. This is a 6-year program. Actually, in the 6th year, it's 1.7 million units. This is a big opportunity for us. And then some new hybrid vehicle technology, the ICM, Integrated Control Module. This sits between the engine side, the gasoline engine side, and the electric motor side, and regulates torque between the two. 470,000 units a year, 23-22 model year, $5.4 million of investment. We gave this presentation at KCST right beside, this doesn't even include the current IMGU line. There was a big investment for IMGU line. We were able to see that in place, and they're getting ready to start off. So again, a big commitment from KE at the North Carolina factory as well. And finally, KUS Muncie. The AP3 intake manifold will start up. This goes on the, sometimes we abbreviate CCA, Civic, CRV, and Accord. It's 149,000 units a year, $3.9 million investment for the KUS Muncie factory. Now, here's the exciting part. So a few years ago, we started having serious discussions with Toyota, and Amano-san was in Asia during that time, and he helped prepare the Thailand, the Asia region to get business for Toyota. And we already have been given maker layout from Toyota in Thailand and China. So this is the next opportunity we have. Currently, it's a Camry, 23 model year Camry. This is launching in both Japan and in the US. And we feel very, very good about the prospect for this business. This has a 263,000 units per year, $2 million investment. Doesn't seem like a lot compared to the others, but $2 million is a big investment. The reason it's so low is we can use our existing equipment. So this is a big win for us. We're really excited about that. This means that everything we're trying to do in Detroit, everything we're trying to do with non-Honda customers is starting to work. So what's that mean? Basically, it means the results are coming soon. So we've all seen this. This is the 13 midterm, 14 midterm, 15 midterm. These new products will start to hit in the 14 midterm. But if you look at it this way, if we hide the past, we've all lived through that. Let's look forward. And we can see that it does flatten out a little bit further, but we start to see these new products coming in. And so this is big news for us. This means it's working. This 2R ETB is a throttle body from Polaris, another non-Honda power sports. This will be made in Mexico for the Polaris Mexico factory. Non-Honda INM, this is the non-Honda intake manifold for Toyota. So we fully expect to get that business. And you can see these things, hopefully non-Honda EMS with Ford, GM, and FCA, these things will start piling up after starting 14, 15 midterm and beyond. There's lots of good activity there, lots of good prospects. We're getting RFQs and RFIs, we're responding to them. They're testing our products, a lot of good momentum. So in summary, we know the sedan market in the US is declining against the light truck and SUV market. We have to react to the technology shift. Our focus is to maintain current business and expand new customer sales. Improve and control QCD. This applies to not only factory floor, but the office environment. This is where we say we don't receive bad parts, we don't make bad parts, and we don't pass along bad parts. The same can be true for our work product in the office environment. So as Amano-san said, we know our future is bright with strong prospects for new business. Keihin is investing $84+ million in US factories. This is good news for us in such a changing environment. And regarding changes, we know the merger. We haven't heard much on the merger, the Hitachi merger. Say it's still unclear. It's more on schedule. We know that integration teams are meeting in Japan and they're working on a communication plan, strategy, and hopefully we'll see some more information very soon on that. And we know together we can strengthen our competitiveness, and as Mono-san said, so we can position ourselves to be the best part of the new company. And finally, most importantly, sincere thank you to everybody for your efforts, your understanding, and your service and commitment to make Kahina even stronger. Thank you.